pushing this question of gender equality, making institutions more inclusive in that sense. And we work hard on, in Sabancı University, for instance, for establishing gender equality, but not only establishment, but important thing actually is, as this research and this project indicates, how to implement it and how to internalize it. We should actually establish connections. We should create allies instead of, looking for them. And in my experience and in my university, I think establishing well-functioning research centers, making the university more research-oriented and applying to, European grants and other type of grants, establishing collaborations with other think tanks, other universities. These are actually extremely important to increase the awareness about gender equality, but at the same time to actually make the members of the community to implement and internalize, more importantly, gender equality is a, sort of a very, very important value-added dimension of the success of the institution, and that's what we've been actually doing in our university.
We have to promote changes at the level of individual dispositions, at the group level where people interact with each other, and at the level of the organizational structure, changing culture and the broader dynamics in organizations. They have to provide public support, ensure that the practical implementation of measures take place, promote all these incentives, and instruct the relevant people to go on with these actions. So what we are doing in this work package that Josh will explain in a minute is basically encourage equal representation of men and women in leadership, analyze and redefine leadership models from a gender perspective. This is basically looking at how we can redefine styles in a broader way, and also support awareness, looking at all these individual dispositions that we mentioned before. Okay, so we want to change individual behavior and attitudes.
From this analysis, we learned that there are still high resistances to gender equality actions in the leadership field, mainly because this meritocracy versus gender equality perspective tension, and also that the importance of the cultural background and inertia and the redefinition of the workload of leaders will play a great role in the changing process towards a more gender inclusive leadership and decision-making bodies.
I come from the institution which is the oldest and the largest educational institution in humanities and social sciences in Slovenia. And we were 100 years old last year. And among 50 and something deans that were in the position at the Faculty of Arts during these 100 years, there were only three female deans. And that was quite shocking to learn. And even more shocking to learn was that my team of vice deans is the first one who has more female deans than male deans. The Faculty of Arts was also the first one in Slovenia to introduce feminist theory and gender studies in the mid-90s. So that helped during this process of adopting gender equality plan, which we adopted this year. The story is not yet ended, and I think it will never be, because the struggle for equality, not only gender equality, equality in terms of all minority groups, I think will never be ended.
There has been a lot of progress made, but then the biggest challenges are what I would call the invisible barriers, the second generation discrimination. The second generation of discrimination, in a nutshell, is what all those interactions, practices, policies, which appears to be gender neutral, but they are not. Individual productivity needs to be put in context. So if people are going through phases of their life where there are other significant demands on their time that come from caring responsibilities, or it could be other things like having a disability, etc., taking that into account and focusing on the quality rather than the quantity. Now, this has been quite a big issue which has gone on over time.
Being a research funding organization, our particular challenge is to improve gender balance among the members of our grant proposal evaluation panels, committees, and among the reviewers. But this is quite difficult because if the imbalance exists in research system, we import the gender biases to our structures. And there exists a great gender imbalance across academic positions. The proportion of women in the decision-making bodies regarding to research policies models, and considerably more men apply for and receive research grants than women.
We decided to kind of raise the issue first. Secondly, we tried to give some support and involvement to our colleagues. Basically tried to use some examples or teaming up with colleagues, introduce persons to this area, research leadership. And it's a long way, I think. It's not a question of regulations, it's more about practices, discourses, actions.
The ideology or the spirit of the university, the discourse of the university helps, in the sense that it is a university committed to social justice. As I said before, I've been working in the Human Rights Institute for many years.
It's not easy, but I think a good point where to start is also being part of committees or not necessarily working groups, and encourage people to look at some of the criteria, some of the policies much more in depth, and think how is it impacting in a different ways on men and women or people with particular responsibilities. So trying to encourage them to do that unpacking of all those stereotypes that often are in this part of these policies, these criteria that are being constructed in a way which is quite gendered. So it's this unpacking exercise. It's not an easy one. That's why I like the positive action